And this one is a re-implemented version of the original game Defenders of the Realm, and this new version is going to feature a lot nicer artwork, upgraded components, and a more streamlined rule set. And if you're not already familiar with the original game, you're going to be defending from 4 different factions of monsters that are going to be spawning and spreading out on the board, with each of these factions having their own general that you're going to be ultimately trying to defeat in order to win the game. And each of these factions and the generals will operate very different from each other, with different behaviors and different challenges that they're going to be presenting to the players. Players win the game if they're able to defeat all 4 of these generals before one of the lost conditions are met. But one thing to note about defeating these different factions of monsters is that every time you defeat one of them, it makes the rest of them a little bit more powerful. Every round you're going to be drawing cards which dictate where more monsters are going to be spawning or moving out on the board, but another thing to note is that if too many monsters end up in the same location, that is another trigger point that's going to cause them to move throughout the map, corrupting the lands and making their way closer to your central city. But luckily, players will be playing as different asymmetrical characters that have different specialties and different special abilities, as well as being more proficient at certain actions than others. In every round, you're going to be drawing action cards up to the hand limit of your character, and then playing as many of those cards as you like in order to perform different actions to attack different enemies, heal yourself or your teammates, move around out on the board, or even build gates to teleport between different areas a little bit easier. These cards offer a number of ways that you can push back against the enemies, but normally it's going to involve rolling dice and then trying to get over a certain value depending on the enemy that you're fighting in order to make a successful hit that you'll be distributing across those different monsters. As the enemies move about the land, they can also corrupt it, and players can also discard cards matching the corrupted location in order to try and cleanse that location of its corruption. As I mentioned, players can use as many of their action cards as they want, but the catch here is that the more cards you use, the more resources you're going to be giving to the enemies during their turn. Players will be trying to defend the cities in a number of ways, but if the generals get a little too close for comfort, you can also deal damage to them in order to push them back a few steps. But also, players won't be able to deal any damage to them until you first defeat their minions, so you're going to want to take advantage of any moments where you have completely wiped the minions of a particular faction off the map. If you do want to check this one out, I will have it linked down below.